Thank you for joining us today as we talk about finishing strong health and wellness tips presented by the Counseling Center.
So today for our outline, we're going to start with talking about self-care, wellness, and mental health and what those things are. And then we're going to go into a little bit more depth about exercise, sleep, and nutrition. And then we're going to end the presentation with some tips for reducing overall stress.
So first we're going to talk what is self-care? Self-care is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during times of stress. Self-care is mindfully taking the time to pay attention to you so you can take care of yourself. There are many different forms or ways that we can take care of ourselves. That's what we're going to highlight here in this next slide.
So some examples of self-care can really be anything that brings you joy. That could be cleaning, maybe cooking or baking, maybe crossing something off the to-do list that you've made, engaging in exercise, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's going to get a massage or going for a walk, taking a nap if you enjoy those, maybe watching TV or a movie. Maybe it's engaging in yoga or meditation or other mindfulness exercises or activities. Maybe making some art. That can be like drawing, painting, sculpting, any of those things. Maybe it's listening to a music or a podcast. Maybe it's playing a game or reading, taking a bath. This is just a list of some of things that we've heard of people that use for self-care, but definitely there's a lot more things that people use for self-care that aren't included on this list. It's really anything that helps you relax or take care of yourself.
So now we're going to transition into talking what is wellness? Wellness is a desire to be in good health, physically, mentally, and socially. We know that this is like a full body experience, interconnecting that physical, mental, and social well-being. That helps us get to that good mental health. Wellness is also becoming aware of and making choices that are healthy and fulfilling to us. And we know that wellness matters because everything we do and every emotion we feel relates to our well-being. In turn, then, our well-being directly affects our actions and our emotions.
So here's the wheel of wellness. There's 8 different dimensions of wellness. I think there's 7 listed on here, but sometimes, occupational's on there as well. So physical would be maybe going to the doctor, anything to care for your body to stay healthy for now and in the future. Intellectual would be, expanding your knowledge and skills. It's kind of like what you're doing now as a student to use those in your future occupation, and continuing to be curious learners. So that could look like, reading books or listening to seminars, those kinds of things. Emotional wellness would be understanding your emotions and feelings, your values, and managing them in a constructive way, and accepting all those feelings, on the whole spectrum, positive, negative emotions, all of them. Social would be maintaining healthy relationships with others around you. Spiritual, that could be finding purpose and value in your life, and meaning for what you're doing. That can also encapsulate religion if that's something that speaks to you.
So now we're really going to focus in on 3 different dimensions pretty heavily here. First of them being exercise as it relates to college students. So just some basic facts first. More than 60% of college students are not getting the recommended amounts of exercise. And then roughly 26% of college students are not exercising at all. These are some huge numbers when we know that exercise is so important for us. But why is it so important? Why does exercise relate to self-care? So we know that regular exercise helps our brain. There is a very strong correlation between the mind and the body. A healthy body is a healthy mind. This is why we know that exercise helps us think better, process things better, things like that. Exercise is also known to help improve your mood, depression, and anxiety. So serotonin and endorphins are released when you exercise. These are two different things that we find in our brains typically. And these are released when we exercise. Endorphins trigger that positive feeling. So a lot of times after a good run or a swim or a hike, people talk about feeling like really good and positive. Well, these are those endorphins working for our benefit. And then raising your serotonin levels by exercising helps boost our mood and overall sense of well-being, which is another great benefit of exercising. Exercise helps with stress and attitude. We know that exercise helps relieve stress, and it's a really good distraction from those everyday pressures and struggles. Like if you just go out for a simple walk when the sun is shining, this helps distract us from those everyday stressors and reduce some of that stress we're feeling. Exercise helps with brain cell development and memory. As a college student, this one is great, right? We want to make sure our brains are developing and building up those memory cells so that we can learn and retain that information. And so exercising helps with that. Exercise improves concentration and focus, again, relating back to college students and how exercise helps our brain, really helps with that concentration and then focusing too in the classroom. And just overall physical fitness is important. We know from a study that looked at obesity and mental health rates, there's a 55 report correlation between an increase in a person's weight and the feeling of more depressed, like sadness, things like that. So if we, exercise, keep our weight at a healthy level, we're also reducing some of those feelings of depression, which is so beneficial to us.
Yeah, so there's some ways we can incorporate exercise into our daily routine. It's kind of recommended, we do that for about 30 minutes each day, and that can really look like anything. So that could be some outdoor activities, like maybe going for a walk or going biking. It could also, right now during COVID or really anytime, there's lots of home online workouts that you can do right in your home without a gym membership, and with limited equipment that you could do and take advantage of. And a lot of them are offering them for free or, maybe free for a month. So you could try it out to see if you like it. And there's also personal training online, whether you're a person that likes personal training in the gym, but, don't have as much time for that in your schedule. Maybe you could do it, later at night online and find that useful. Like any of these examples, it can be any of these, it could be plus even more. Just trying to get your body moving for about 30 minutes a day can really be beneficial for you and your mental health.
So sleep is the second category that we really wanted to highlight and focus on today as it relates to college students. So some quick facts. College students should be getting, on average, 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This is what is recommended for this age group. When you are sleep deprived, you are not as alert or coordinated. This makes us more prone to accidents, like car accidents, things like this. Sleep deprivation causes a lot of issues, so we really want to strive to get that 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep each night. And then there's an estimated 84 million adults who are not getting enough sleep each night. And this is so detrimental to our mental health and our physical health, just our whole wellness overall. So how does sleep then relate to our self-care? If we know it's so important, like why? How does it relate to our self-care? Well, if we look at sleep deprivation and mood, sleep deprivation is linked to higher levels of stress, higher blood pressure levels, and a lower brain functioning. So there's a lot of issues. If we don't sleep, our body reacts in a lot of different ways. Lack of sleep is linked to medical complications and impaired brain development, just like I just said with that sleep deprivation. Lack of sleep contributes to an increased level of stress and illness. So just like the doctors who tell you to rest up maybe when you have the flu or just feeling kind of down at times, our bodies need time to recover and recharge. So it's really important to help reduce some of that levels of stress and illness to get adequate sleep each night. Adequate sleep is also linked to better grades and improved memory. So when we sleep, our bodies have time to sort through the information we learned or took in during the day and then file it away. So it's really cool. Like all the information that we're learning each and every day gets stored in our brains. But for it to go from that short-term memory spot into some of that long-term, we need to sleep. We need to give our brains that chance to sort through things, file it away, so that way when we do take tests or exams later on, we're able to pull that information out and accurately use that to help us get good grades and stuff. And then better sleep means improved mood. Anxiety and depression is linked to inadequate amounts of sleep. And so if we want to decrease our depression or our feelings of anxiety, maintaining a good sleep schedule, getting in those 7 to 9 hours of sleep is really going to help with that.
Yeah, so here's some 7 tips for better sleep, or also, sometimes referred to as like sleep hygiene. The first is allow enough time for sleep at night. So like was mentioned, it's recommended for students to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So making sure you're really intentional about going to bed at a certain time and waking up at a certain time, so that way you're able to get that recommended hours within that time frame. The second one is make your bedroom a peaceful, tidy environment. This can really help our minds relax and get ready for bed each night. I know, as students, sometimes we use our bedrooms as multi-purpose rooms, kind of, so maybe we do our homework in our room, or maybe we do our workouts in our room, those kinds of things, but trying the best we can to keep it all peaceful and tidy and picked up can really help our brains relax and shut down when it's ready for bedtime. The third one is get a regular schedule. So this can help our bodies just be ready to fall asleep at night because they're used to it. So kind of getting in a rhythm. So maybe during the week you go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 6 o'clock. And then on the weekends that might change, to midnight to like 8 a.m. or something like that. But make sure it's relatively regular each day. Can really help your brain and your body be like, oh, it's time for bed, and to start to shut off and slow down. The fourth one is avoid heavy meals, alcohol, and caffeine before sleep. These can really disrupt the sleep that we're trying to get if we do fall asleep, and they can also make it harder for our bodies to fall asleep at night, and may leave us, tossing and turning or not falling into that deep sleep that we're wanting to hit so that we feel rested in the morning. The fifth one is to avoid exercising 3 hours before sleep. This is because exercise actually gets our endorphins running, and it can actually wake you up and give you energy. So that's why you see a lot of times people maybe exercise in the morning or in the afternoon, because those are times it can give you a energy of a pickup maybe. But trying to avoid as best as possible for at least a few hours right before bed, so that way we're not re-energizing our brains when it's almost time to fall asleep. 6 is avoid TV beds. So having like a TV in your room or other media like a computer or something. That's because of the blue light that it gives off can really stimulate our brains and actually keep them awake and have a hard time falling asleep. That also goes with number 7. That's avoid the bright lights for 2 hours before bed. So maybe trying to do an activity that doesn't involve screens or bright lights. So maybe that's reading a book or playing, some cards or something right before bed as something to do, an activity, but also takes away that screen component.
So now we're going to transition into talking about nutrition, since it's another one of those areas that is so important to our mental health. I just want to put a quick note in here. We're not nutritionists. We don't know everything about nutrition. These are just some facts and relations to mental health that we do know about. And so like we'll say on the next slide, just like consult a medical doctor, the campus dietitian, student health services, something like that, if you want more information on nutrition. But otherwise, just some facts about nutrition. Food nourishes our whole body, including our brain. So we want to feed our brain something that's healthy rather than something that's high in fat or sodium, sugar, or even highly processed foods. Like, we don't want that in our body. We don't want that in our brains. So your college years are when you are reinforcing your eating habits. A lot of times, these years of being on your own, going to college, this is when our eating habits really get instilled. And it's a great time to try new foods or new recipes, anything like that, as they will kind of reinforce our eating habits from here out. We know that our first year college students typically gain that 3 to 7 pounds. It's pretty common for everyone to joke about the freshman 15, but in reality, people do gain weight this first year of college because there's so much change happening. New dining hall plans. Maybe you don't have that person in your life anymore that cooks you 3 square meals a day. It's all up to you to decide now. Late night binges while you're studying or things like that. It's pretty common for college students to gain some weight during their first or even second year of college. And then 95% of college students fail to eat the recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables. So according to the food pyramid or food plate, whichever one you're familiar with, for fruit, we should be eating 1 to 2 cups a day of this, and vegetables should be 1 to 3 cups. And so it doesn't sound like too much, 2 or 3 cups of fruits and vegetables, but that can also be a lot for some people. And, studies show that 95% of college students aren't getting this much in their normal diets. So why is this important, and why are we talking about this? So how does nutrition relate to self-care? What you eat affects your productivity in different ways. So eating healthy is so important. Think of like when you eat a greasy cheeseburger, right? It tastes good, but then it kind of leaves us feeling kind of heavy, bloated, kind of icky feeling afterwards. We don't want that in our systems. We don't want that in our bodies because that's not going to lead us to a healthy, well-balanced life. If we're looking at wellness, rather we want something healthy in ourselves. And so that's why nutrition is so important. Carbohydrates do affect our mood. So, if we're getting too many carbohydrates or not enough carbohydrates, this really affects how we feel, our energy levels, things like that. Protein and alertness. We know that protein comes from meat and fish and like eggs and beans and things like this. This helps us stay alert and energized for the day. And if we're cutting these things out of our normal diets, this can really have an impact on us and our alertness or energy. Fruits and vegetables assist with mood regulation. So there was a study done who had participants eat less high-fat meals and more fruits and vegetables. So less fat, more fruits and vegetables. And then they found that these participants were actually more happier, more engaged, and more creative. That's reason enough to eat more fruits and vegetables, right? Like, we want to be more happy, more engaged, and more creative. And if our diet helps us with that, all the better. Try eating small, frequent meals to help balance the stress hormones. A lot of times, if we only eat one meal a day, our bodies get confused and they don't know like what to do because we've been starving them all day, and then we eat a really big meal. This throws off those stress hormones. It kind of messes up our metabolism, things like that. And so they recommend eating small, frequent meals or snacks throughout the day to help balance this. Then we talk about the danger of fad diets. These can be really tasteless, boring, expensive, time-consuming, and in all of this, they tend to be short-lived efforts. They're not helpful to us. And so while it might seem, good at the moment just to have a shake, all the time for your meals, we really want to make sure we're getting in all those food groups, all of those benefits to us, whether they're carbs, proteins, fruits, vegetables, things like that, even those healthy fats. We need all of that in our diets to be, balancing our health and our wellness. And then just overall, poor diet equals a poor mental and physical health. And so this is what we've been getting at the whole time. We want to make sure our diet is well-rounded, colorful, and proportionately sized so that way our mental and physical health can strive.
So, how to improve your nutrition and eating habits? The first is to eat foods you enjoy. So, we talked about, the benefits of all the food groups, but maybe you don't always enjoy all of those different food groups. But those are important to eat, but it's also important to eat the ones that you do enjoy. But just making sure that you're eating those in moderation and not going overboard with any of those. Like mentioned, never skip meals. This can make our bodies kind of get out of whack, kind of stress them out, not know when their next meal's coming. It can leave us feeling maybe tired, with low energy. Just overall, our bodies don't react well to skipping meals. Try to avoid sugar and processed foods as much as possible. I know sometimes those are the foods that taste really good, and maybe they're the foods you enjoy. So yeah, still enjoy them and enjoy them in moderation, but try to avoid them, or avoid not eating them all the time and for every meal. And then try making your own meals. This can be a really healthy way to start introducing, some of those foods maybe you don't enjoy. You can add some new spices or something to them to try and make them taste good. And then also when you make your own meals, you know exactly what you're putting into your body and what you're eating versus maybe when you go buy a prepackaged meal or buy it somewhere else, you don't know exactly all that's being put into it. Remember to eat those whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. So the different parts of that food pyramid or food plate, and making sure that you're getting each part of those in your meals each day is really important. Practice mindful eating and snack smart. So mindful eating, pay attention to what you're eating and when you're eating and even how much you're eating. But also when you're paying attention to what you're eating, maybe be mindful of like, do I want to eat something hot, like maybe some soup or a hot sandwich or something, or maybe I want something cold, like a salad or something like that. It can also be, do you enjoy creamy foods or crunchy foods? Trying to figure out what you enjoy eating, those kinds of things. And with Snack Smart, that kind of means, when you're eating those snacks in between meals, to fuel yourself, make sure you're eating foods that'll give you energy. Like nuts and almonds are great for that. Get a little protein, a little energy in you. Um, and then nutrition in the food you eat is very important, but also remember to always drink plenty of water. Water has many benefits as well. It can help, curb a little bit of hunger. It can keep us hydrated. Sometimes with a lack of water, we can get maybe some headaches, and stuff like that. And water can really be beneficial for all of those things. And then, like mentioned, always seek help if you need it. We're not registered dietitians. This is just some of that basic knowledge we have, but there are people on campus who can help you. One is Student Health Services. This is free to students. You can go there. You can talk, maybe during a physical or something about what food groups maybe you're eating, what ones you're lacking, how you could improve your diet, those kinds of things. If you want a little bit more in depth about your diet, and food intake, we have a campus dietitian who is free for all students. Her name's Lizzie, and she is great, very knowledgeable. You can set up meetings and times to talk with her. And she can help, walk you through what foods maybe you should be adding to your diet, maybe which ones you should be limiting, those kinds of things. And then also any other medical provider, they can help you with your overall wellness, and eating's part of that. So they can talk, making sure you're getting those recommended fruits and vegetables each day, getting that protein in some kind of form, and those kinds of things, they can be helpful as well.
So finally, just some tips for reducing stress. Stress is something a lot of people feel, a lot of people deal with. So these are just some tips that we came up with. There definitely can be more to this list. You can definitely adapt them to being, beneficial to you. But we're just gonna go through these real quick, as different tips for reducing stress. So practice being quiet and still. A lot of times when we're stressed, there's so much happening around us that we forget to be still and be quiet and take in our surroundings sometimes in a calming spot. This can really help reduce some of that stress we're feeling. Also, relax and practice deep breathing exercises. This is a great way to slow our bodies down, kind of push some of that stress and tension out of our bodies, and take in some good deep breaths. Another great way to reduce stress is to plan or organize your day. If you have a crazy busy schedule or a day before you, it might be helpful to plan, organize where you need to be, at what times, what you need to bring with you, different things like that, just so that that feels a little less crazy. Recognize and accept your limits. Recognize that you are not Superman and cannot do everything, right? We want to accept our limits and know that we can't do everything in one day. Maybe it's going to take us 2 or 3 days to finish an assignment. That's perfectly okay, as long as we get it in on time, right? So recognizing and accepting our limits. Learn to play and have fun. This is so important in reducing some of this stress. We know that taking a break, whether that's for a fun game or having some fun with friends, this is a great way to reduce some stress and add a little more enjoyment to your life. Become a more positive person. This is something that we should all be striving for, as it helps with our overall wellness and with reducing stress. Just becoming more positive, smiling more, thanking people, going through your day with a more positive energy just makes you a more positive person. Learn to tolerate and forgive. This is a huge one, and it's not something we can learn overnight, something we need to practice, but it also helps reduce our stress then once we do work through it and kind of figure it out, right? So once we learn to tolerate little things that might stress us out, or if we learn to forgive someone for something they said or did, this takes a lot of that stress away that we're feeling. Avoid unnecessary competition. It might not be worth it. It might cause more stress than anything to constantly be in competition with somebody else. So trying to avoid some of that might help you. Get regular exercise. We already talked about this one a lot. The many benefits of exercise in reducing stress, and even incorporating in some meditation, yoga, progressive muscle relaxation. These are great ways to help reduce stress in a productive way. Interact with and talk to friends or a counselor. Sometimes we just need to vent to somebody and we need to kind of get it off our chest what's really stressing us out. So talking to friends or a counselor is a great way to do this. And then just overall, change your thinking and change your life. So we know that once we start taking a different lens or a different perspective on some of this, we really do start to change our life into a more positive, healthy life that we want for ourselves.
Yeah, so that's the end of our presentation and what we have for today. If you need any other care or guidance or help or anything really, feel free to contact the Counseling Center. We're always here for you. There's our counseling website, and then the phone number as well.